This is a podcast that I think we all are going to be super excited to listen to. We're right here at the new year, and one of the things I think everybody wants to do around New Year's is get in shape. And so I'm having one of the main experts here in the state of Utah, Jordan Pendleton with P1 Performance One. He is the CEO founder of this company, and his whole entire mission is to help people get in better shape, faster, stronger, bigger. Jordan, good to have you here, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
I gotta say, dude, I'm a little intimidated. You're a pretty big dude here. Whatever you teach people, if you guys are watching this, you know what I'm talking about. If you're just listening, check out the YouTube. But this dude looks like, if you guys ever seen like Spartacus or something, this is what that guy looks like. But dude, you have been doing this now for about 4 or 5 years. Is that right?
Yeah, about 5 years with my business, and then a year or two before that. So.
No, it's amazing. I keep seeing, it's funny, I put a thing on Instagram, like who most did people want me to interview, and you and Rachel Parcell, who was recently on the show, were the two names that kept popping up. I think people are they see what you've done for these other athletes, and people are curious. I know when I was in high school, my freshman year, I wrestled 112, and I was also the slowest kid on the baseball team. So you get the idea, dude. I would have died for something like this, and I would have been willing to do it. I was all in. I just never knew what to do. I think I was in my 20s by the time I figured out that, like, what actually helps you get bigger, stronger, faster.
Right.
I thought that eating, granola bars and macaroni and cheese was healthy.
It was going to get you there.
I really did, though. I just didn't know any difference. So it's good to have an expert with us. But, you played at BYU. You were on your path basically to get drafted. You were very highly recruited, had a great career, and then you had a really devastating knee injury. It's kind of what led you to this path. Tell us a little bit what happened when all that took place.
Yeah, so I had never been. Football was my life, and that was my only goal in life, was really to go play in the NFL since I was 5 years old. And I was wired that way from my dad. My dad played in the NFL, and I was never injured my whole entire life. I had a couple knickknacks, but I want to say I missed one game my whole life, from Little League all the way up to high school and beyond. And I want to say it was about my sophomore year in college. I had my first real kind of setback, and it was my shoulder surgery. I tore my labrum. Came back from that the next year, tore my other labrum, and then dislocated my patella. And had a misdiagnosis on my knee injury. So, I got a surgery. I came back my senior year, but had a misdiagnosis. And basically what happened is they didn't detect my cartilage damage on my knee. And so I was playing on that my whole entire senior year.
Did you feel the pain at that time?
So when it first started, it just started by swelling. It would get really big, and they would just drain me, numb me before the game, so I couldn't feel it right. and I'm just thinking, I felt invincible at the time. I've come back from 7 surgeries. I can come back from this one. But this one was just different because it kept coming, and it wasn't painful at first. And so I like to, the biggest comparison I can make is a windshield, right? You get a crack on a windshield, and if you go and get that fixed right away, it's not going to spread, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's the same thing with cartilage. I had a chip in my cartilage, and it was so small at the time, and I had enough surrounding cartilage that I didn't feel the pain. But once that started chipping and getting bigger and bigger, that's when the onset of the pain came, and I knew something was wrong. And I remember, I'll never forget, we were playing TCU at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Before the game, I remember thinking, this might be the last game of the year for me, because I didn't practice all week, couldn't walk. And I got numbed up. I took a bunch of pain pills, and it was like, let's go. And I remember we had NFL scouts there. It was my biggest game of my life, and I played really well. Played the whole entire game, and then next week we had a bye week. I went in and begged for an MRI and got an MRI. Found out I was bone on bone in my knee, and 21, 22 years old, and that I was going to need a knee replacement, and that ended it for me, man. It was kind of a surreal feeling. I thought it would, I didn't ever think it would be something I wouldn't be able to come back from, and when you get an injury like that, it's, you can't heal cartilage. It's done for.
So is that, I know a lot of athletes a lot of making it to the NFL or the major leagues or whatever it is, a lot of it is just the luck of not getting injured, right?
Absolutely.
Like so many at that level, that collegiate level, there's so many elite athletes, and really those two things that it feels like separates those that make and those that don't. One is injuries, and then two is like obviously they have to be able to work harder than everybody else. But when you get an injury like that, I mean, how did that affect you? Were you emotionally were you okay with it? Did you kind of accept it, or was it, I mean, really difficult? Did you get depressed about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Went through some depression for sure. And it's hard when like something you've been working for your entire life, since you were 8 years old, and you work for this one goal your whole entire life, and to have it like be taken away from you for something that's out of your control, right? Like if I went and got cut because I wasn't good enough, I can live with that. Mm-hmm. I can live with, not being good enough. I'm just not good enough. You're not fast
that
enough.
Was like my college baseball career. I was playing and I was like, okay, I'm just not good enough to actually get a scholarship and make this worth my time.
Right.
But I had so much, I was fine with it because I knew I'd maximized as far as I was going.
Right. And you can live with that, but it was really hard to live with something that was out of my control. Mm-hmm. And something where, growing up, you never think about that stuff. You feel invincible. And then once it's over and it's like, no, dude, like you can't play. You can't cut. You can't run. Your knee's never going to be the same. And it's a really hard transition. And it was really hard for me. And I know like even people that don't leave on that note, anytime you end something that you've worked for your whole entire life, mm-hmm. you go through there's definitely this transition period where it's really hard and it's a struggle to move on for sure.
So how did you get out of that or decide what to do next?
Well, that's where I was lucky is I had a second passion and it's what I'm doing now. Mm. And I want to say it was my sophomore year in college. I was going to BYU and I was taking a major that I tried to just take the easiest major ever, right? I think it was like recreation management or something. And I remember getting to like my sophomore year, and that's when I had my first injury. And I've always loved fitness. I've always wanted to own my own gym. Like that was something I always wanted to do, but I wanted to do it when I had millions of dollars and I could mm-hmm. open this big facility. And I had dreams of doing that, but it happened a lot sooner than I thought. And when I was going through some of my injuries, I started really learning about the human body and why did I tear my shoulder? Why did my kneecap sublux and why are some of these injuries occurring? And so I actually switched my major to exercise science field, and it was at that point where I kind of transitioned into, all right, I really want to learn about this stuff because I was going through so many injuries at the time. I had 7 major surgeries in 3 years, and so that's when I really took to the human body and started figuring out, like, I want to know why, and then it just kind of spiraled from there, and it kind of developed into this second passion of like, if I can't do what I love to do, at least I can help others do what they love to do, and I can maybe prevent some of these youth athletes and some of these athletes from not making the same mistakes I did because I was uneducated. I was uneducated with training, with nutrition, with the mental component of the game. And if we can help affect these kids in a positive way, maybe it'll prevent an injury later on in life, or maybe it will help them get to a level that they didn't think they could get to, and not make the same mistakes that I made.
Yeah, I do a lot of training for new agents that get into real estate, right? It's kind of the same thing. It's like I made so many mistakes when I got in, especially financially. It was, I had a lot of success when I first started, and people were coming out of the woodwork, and you don't know anything. I'm just like, sure, sounds like a good idea. And next thing you know, you're dead broke and you've made a lot of money. You're like, what is going on? And so I tried to help educate people. Same thing, right? I wish I had mentors, but I didn't have anybody like sitting me down and showing me like money and some of these things that were going to come at me. And so I kind of try to do that for other people now. I try to help them like, hey, here's a couple of the pitfalls that I had. And it is really satisfying when you help somebody else.
Yeah, 100%.
So
it's the closest thing you can get to doing it yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Is seeing somebody else succeed. I mean, that gives you that feeling of satisfaction that you couldn't get anywhere else unless you yourself were still playing or out there making plays.
For sure. Well, now you coach. You train high school kids, college players. A lot of BYU and Utah athletes come to you, and corporate, like just Joe Schmo.
Yep, absolutely. And recently we've also really gotten into the general population fitness as well. It's something I've wanted to do for a while. More of my expertise and backgrounds is sports performance, but I also, like, some of my favorite clients are the everyday average Joe that, is struggling or has maybe let themselves go, getting them back to, a place that they didn't think they could go, or getting them out of kind of that slump they've been in. Sometimes those guys are way more rewarding than, some of our high level athletes, for sure.
Well, it's such an important topic that I don't think a lot of people realize just how important health is to your overall happiness and passion for life. I'm a big, Tony Robbins guy. I talk about him all the time. And I went to Date with Destiny a couple of years ago, and he talks about values that you move towards and then values you move against. And he goes through this whole exercise for like 2 straight days to figure out which values you are most important to you.
Right.
And he said, when I first started doing this 20 years ago, health wasn't even on there. And then it moved up to like 18th, and then it moved up to 15th. And now health is his number one thing on there because he's realized how much health affects everything else. Passion, living an extraordinary life, happiness, love, giving, all these different things. And you see people that are out of shape and they're just kind of dragging a little bit, and you're like, man, like, get lit up again. And so I think it is one of the most important things. That's why I'm pulling on a lot of health experts these next few weeks, because as we start 2019, if you're going to have your best year yet, I think the health aspect is probably the most important part that you need to get correct.
You couldn't have said it any better, man. And health is all we have. If we're not healthy, like, you think like if you weren't healthy, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing and do it, as successful as you're doing. You'd be dealing with other issues, right? And so, I've seen it with tons of people. There's people out there that have hobbies and they have stuff that they actually would love to be able to do, but they can't because of their physical health. And it's something that is in our control for the most part, right? I mean, obviously, if you have, some disease or something that's out of your control and health issues and that concern, then but to be in a position where you can't do the stuff that you want to do because of your physical fitness, and it's a choice that you ultimately get to make. It's sad to see. And so that was one of my main reasons I wanted to reach out more to general population, is to kind of invite them into what we're doing here at P1, and we try and just treat them like they're athletes, right? Everybody is an athlete here. Well,
and we're going to get into some of the details of what you do because I think the majority of my audience probably is just random people that, I think everybody wishes they were in some kind of better shape. So anybody can listen to this and get something out of it. But when you're performing or training these top performing athletes, I mean, you've got, these BYU and Utah, for example, Covey comes in, Britton Covey, and works with you a lot. I know he credited a lot of getting his speed back as quickly as he did from his mission. Is it more difficult to watch when, like, one of them gets injured? Like, I know, Britton had his injury. How does that, as a coach?
Absolutely. It sucks. And you try to do everything, especially with a return missionary that's taken 2 years off. You try to, get him back to an elite level, but at the same time try and take it slow enough that you prevent that stuff from happening. And I used to beat myself up about it at first. Like, if somebody I'm training gets hurt, I took it personal. But I also got to understand that there's some stuff that's out of your control. Like, it was a freak accident.
Right.
It happens all the time, and I didn't even see the play. And when I heard the news, I didn't even want to watch the play. But it's unfortunate to see somebody that you love and somebody that you've put your all into, and you're kind of living vicariously through them. Like, when he has a good game, I'm like, hell yeah, that's my guy. And so to see somebody that you truly care about get hurt, there's not a worse feeling than that, man.
No, I can imagine. I know as a high school baseball coach, I coached for 3 years at Brigham, where you actually went to school. And we had a kid on the team get hit by a line drive, a pitcher. You know? And I think that was the hardest part of the entire coaching, everything we went through. And we had to kick guys off the team. We lost heartbreaking state final games. But I think when, his name's Coben, when he got hit by this line, his head literally swelled up like a garbage pail, And so I totally understand that feeling when you're just, it's helpless. And it's just one of those things that's fluke, especially in football. Like there's just injuries all the time.
Especially, and most of the ACL injuries are non-contact. 80% of them are non-contact, meaning literally nobody touched you when it happened. And so it's what happened to me. Any wrong movement, torque on the ground, your foot gets caught, any weird hyperextended position, all of a sudden it's gone. And so it's frustrating, man.
Well, so let's talk about like when you're working with one of these elite athletes. There's a kid listening to this right now. He wants to get faster. He wants to get bigger. Give us a couple key things that you give to athletes specifically, some things that you do to train them to help them get quicker.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, especially with youth athletes, is I get parents that come in and they want their kid to be faster, right? And that's what every parent wants. Like, I need my kid to be faster. But there's so many different variables that go into speed. And also everybody is genetically different. There's kids that just don't have the talent that some other kids have, right? You got a Toyota Corolla and you got a Porsche. The Corolla, I was a
Toyota Corolla. I was like a very well built Toyota Corolla.
No matter, you could put the best gas in that car. You could train that car all you want. It's never going to be as fast as the Porsche.
Sure.
A lot of parents don't understand that concept. The second thing is development level, where they're at in their development level. I had a kid come in and his parent was like, "Get my kid faster, right? I want him to be the next." Whatever, and every dad thinks their kids, I
always joke. My dad, we had a shortstop. I played second base. We had a shortstop when I played high school baseball named Tyler Vigil, and he was one of the best players in the state. I think he was like third in the state in home runs. He was one of the fastest guys. He was our leadoff. Dude was so much better than me. And my dad would complain all the time, and I finally was like, "Dad, you realize how dumb you make me look when you think I'm better than Tyler? Like, right. I am what I am, okay? Yeah. Like, I'm starting at second base. I'm content with this. Yeah. I'm the singles hitter to get on so Tyler can hit a home run."
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's so many different variables that go into it, and everybody is different. Every athlete's different. Like, this athlete might need to work on ankle mobility, right? Like, if you don't have the proper ankle mobility and dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, you're not going to be able to exert as much force into the ground as somebody whose ankles are more mobile. If you have tight hips and you can't get full hip extension when you're driving out of your sprint, there's so many factors that go into it with kids. And going back to this kid that came in with me, his dad said, "Make my kid faster." And his dad would come in and watch the sessions, right? He wanted to know what I was doing, and he's creeping up on me. And he came to me about 2 weeks later. He was paying one-on-one. He was, he's paying the premium price, one-on-one. And I didn't have the kid run one time, right? And the dad came and said, "Hey, I want you to make my kid faster. Why hasn't he ran at all?" And I told his dad, I said, have you seen your son walk? Have you seen how he moves? I mean, his feet were so flat that every time he took a step, his foot would totally invert here, right? And so he had such bad mechanics. And so my whole goal with him initially was just let's try and fix his mechanics. Let's try and fix and so I taught him how to goblet squat and we worked on balance and proprioception and all this stuff that parents don't think about. And so I got pissed, honestly. I was pissed off, man, because I'm like, all right. I'm like, you want to see if he's faster? And so I had pre-tested him when he came in, and I had him. I took him through all the same protocol, take him through all the same testing, and I showed his dad the times, right? And his dad was blown away, and he was like,
"Shut up and let me do my job."
He's like, "Holy shit!" He's like, "I'll never question you again." He's like, "Keep doing what you're doing," and I was like, "Absolutely." And so my whole point is, there's so many different factors that go into being fast. You can't just pinpoint one thing, right? Every athlete's different, and you have to assess the athlete and figure out what their weaknesses are to be able to provide them the proper program to get them in a position to increase their speed.
Is there any sport or activity that a kid can do when he's really young that helps him to get that natural speed better? Because obviously, it's like what you're saying, not every kid that's a Corolla is going to be able to be a Porsche, but everybody can get much faster, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When we get young kids in, it's crazy. They make the most change, right? Because their bodies have never learned any bad habits for the most part, unless mechanically they're bad. And so when you're teaching a kid at a young age, their bodies absorb that information way more than like an NFL guy that comes in and he's already got so many bad habits, right? It's way harder to fix those guys than it is a youth athlete. And so when you get a youth athlete, a couple things to look at is like neuromuscular control. Kids are awkward, right? They're goofy, they're lanky, and they're not grown into their body. So teaching a kid how to control his body and his awareness, and actually start, teaching them how to activate certain muscles, that alone makes kids faster. Just because, and it was like that kid. I did goblet squats with him. I worked on balance, and him just being able to like fire certain muscles and learn how to control his body better made him faster, because when he was running, he was in more control of his body. And so that's what we really focus on with our youth, is just trying to teach them how to move properly. Because sometimes being faster, if you can just change like a small part of their technique, they can get faster from just one thing. And so that's what it's about.
Well, it's such an important thing. I remember as a kid, I was the slowest kid. I just was. I wasn't fat. I wasn't like, I was just happened to be really slow. And it wasn't until I got like literally in my 20s, I started learning about sprinting and actually like you said, flexing.
Yeah.
I'm getting flexible in the ankles and the hips and these different things, And I was like, I was probably peaked at like 30 of my speed. I'm like, man, I wish I would have known all these things when I was younger. So how young is too young for somebody to start coming and seeing a performance coach?
That's a great question. I really don't think there's an age limit. It all depends on their development level. I've had 8-year-olds in here that have done exceptionally well, and I've had 15-year-olds in here that suck, quite frankly, And so it depends. Like, kids mature at different rates, and their development level is different. And so, but there's really no age that's too young. If you look at an infant has a perfect squat. They have a perfect squat. So even when we're young kids, like, we're squatting when we're 2 years old, but nobody wants to look at it like that. And so there's no like such thing as a perfect age. It all just depends on development level and where the athlete's at in their maturity process.
Oh, that makes sense. So you touched on something, because you coached high school football this year at Skyridge as well.
Yeah.
What do you see? Like, what are some of the mistakes that parents make that do damage to their kids, where they're trying to helicopter parent or whatever that might be? What are some of the key things that you see? Because you see it all the time. These dads, that they care, right? Like, they're coming from a good place, but they do more harm than good. And what are some of the key things that you would tell the parents not to do that you see quite a bit?
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of my biggest struggles right now is being able to educate parents. Like, parents will get mad at their kid if they don't have the best bench press, right, at their high school. Like, why can't you bench as much as Johnny, right? And he's a quarterback, and you're like, well, why does he need to bench? He's a quarterback. Like, who gives a shit how much he can bench, right? And so I think it's like, for parents, my main like advice to them is to get educated on proper training. Just because a kid can squat 400 pounds doesn't mean that he's doing it correctly. And it doesn't mean that he's getting anything good out of that. And vice versa. There could be a kid that's weak, that needs to work on, different areas. And so like, there's so many different variables of training. And the main thing I see with high school kids right now is everybody wants to be that tough kid, right? They want to bench the most, they want to squat the most. And that's how I was in college. That's how we're wired from these high school coaches is, whoever benches the most, all of a sudden you get street cred.
Yeah, you're the alpha, right?
When it comes to the professional level, nobody gives a shit how much you can bench, right? I mean, you think the Patriots care how much Tom Brady can bench?
Right.
And so when you get up to the elite level, it becomes more about the longevity of your career. How can we how can we allow you to play at a high level for as long as possible without getting injured?
Well, so that makes a lot of sense for, athletes and people training like that. But I want to kind of dive into now. So, again, with the new year, get a lot of people want these fitness goals. They want to get in better shape. So, talk us through, what is the process? What do you recommend somebody listening to this, they're 40 pounds overweight, they've wanted to lose the weight for 8 years, never bothered to do it, or they tried, they get a quick diet. What are some key things that you can help them to actually get the weight taken off?
The main thing for that is like start right now. And I personally, like, I have mixed feelings about January because it's great for business, but I absolutely hate it because what it is it's a bunch of people that have made mistakes for far too long that all of a sudden, oh, it's January, now I'm going to get into shape. Well, what about November? What about December? You can't pick and choose when you're going to do stuff. And so my biggest advice is, and this is what we tell our clients, is like, make a decision right now and start. Because you're never going to get anywhere if you don't start. And then, when people do start, how can we be consistent and how can we keep you motivated and striving for new goals?
How do you keep somebody motivated? They go for 2 weeks, then they fall off for a couple of days. How do you keep them motivated to get back on?
It's hard. It really is. And I think it's about finding, we're not going to be able to help everybody, right? We can only help the people that truly buy in, and trust in us and know that it's a process and it's a journey. I get so many people like writing me on Instagram or messaging me like, dude, how can I'm going on a trip in a week. Like what's the best thing I can do to like hurry and lean out for a trip?
Don't eat.
And I'm like, dude, like, sorry, you're gonna be fat at your vacation. Like,
go get a good tan and try to cover it up with that. Right?
Yeah. So there's no quick fix, unless obviously you go and get a surgery or something, right? There's no quick fix. It takes a lot of hard work and it takes consistency. And if you're not willing to, do those 3 things, then it's just not going to work. And so we just try to keep our clients motivated. We throw different challenges. We'll have competitions, and really it's about them trying to strive to be their best self, right? Not compete against the Instagram models and not compete against all that, because social media ruins a lot of stuff.
I think it makes it really hard because, like, I know me personally, like, I'm in good shape, but then I compare myself like somebody like you, and I'm like, dang it, I need to get in better shape. And I beat myself up for a second until I realized, wait, I am in good shape. This is the small part of my life. I'm not a trainer. I'm not doing this for 12 hours a day, right? And then you compare yourself like in every aspect too. Like you'll compare your business to the top business guy, and you'll compare your financial situation to somebody that's been investing for 25 years. And it's very hard, I think, with social media, especially. I even compare myself to like the travel Instagrammers. Yeah. Like I love to travel, Actually, we were in Bali, I was 3 weeks ago. You happened to be there at the same time. Yeah. It was kind of funny. But no, and I got to catch myself and go, you can't, it's only in competition with yourself. Yeah. And so I guess what are 2 or 3, obviously you need the nutrition side of it. You need the working out side of it, sleep and water and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. What are a couple key things that where you see people maybe have obstacles or fall away from their goals?
Yeah, I think, there's a couple things. I think, one thing that we we struggle with is like people, like the main question we always get asked, like, what supplements do I take, right? Like, what supplements do you take? And people legit think if they take a supplement, they're just magically going to get in shape. And so that's an obstacle that we try and overcome and just educate them on nutrition. And like you said, sleep. A lot of people don't understand how important sleep is to recovery. And so, there's little things like that can really get in the way of people. They think they need this to get here. In reality, it's like, no, just go work out, watch what you eat, and be in tune with your body. And that's going to go a lot further than some supplement that you take, right? Mm-hmm. And so just trying to break down those small barriers of people. And again, it reverts back to social media, because you got this handsome, 6-pack guy and he's holding this supplement product and like, take this and you're going to look like me. And And, you know, you guys don't know how that guy trains. You don't know how he eats. He could be on performance enhancement stuff. Like, nobody knows what that guy's actually doing. I'm pretty sure that product isn't making him look like that. And that's one of the biggest obstacles we face.
No, that makes sense. So somebody that just has the hardest time with not cheating on their diet, what do you do for people that just love sugar or they love, you know, pasta or whatever it might be, whatever's holding them back? How do you help someone break one of those bad habits?
Yeah, I think, you know, for some of those people, and like I have people where literally, like when my client Greg reached a certain goal, we went and got all you can eat sushi. And that was our reward. Like, dude, let's go eat. And it wasn't like the motive wasn't like eat healthy and hit your goal and then now you can go back to eating crappy. It's trying to teach them about maintaining a lifestyle that they can actually achieve, right? Something that's realistic. If somebody loves sugar and they have sugar cravings, let's try and limit the amount of sugar you eat. But if you have to have a Snickers to get through the day, like you just absolutely have to, let's see how we can make that work into your diet, right? And so the goal is not to like necessarily take anything away. It's to educate on the things that they should be eating and then find out how we can reward them and still have them live a normal life, eat the stuff they still want to eat, but have it still fall into, you know, what they should be eating, how much they should be eating and their macronutrients. And I think that's something that is very important because nobody can be perfect year round.
Right. I like Bill Phillips talks about Body for Life. He talks about like you eat healthy all week and you have one day that's like your cheat day, right? So I did that diet, like it was the first like time I actually did like a diet that worked. Yeah. And I remember I had my cheat day. I was so excited for my donut in the morning.
Oh yeah.
And then I bought some Skittles at like 11 and I'll be honest, I was halfway through this pack of Skittles and I felt so shitty that I was like, I don't even want to eat this anymore. And so I saw the genius of it, right?
Right, absolutely.
But I do think that's important. I think what I try to tell people, whether it's with your weight or like what you do nutrition-wise or even money, I say play red light, green light. Like have like your, like I will not go worse than this.
Yeah.
But if I'm above that, then I can green light. I can eat a little bit better or different, you know, things I want to eat. And so like you said, I think it's important not to be so stern on yourself because I think a lot of people, what happens is, they have this goal and they want to be perfect and then they're not. And then they're like, oh, baguette, I suck.
Screw it. Right. Yeah. You know, screw it. Yeah. I already had one bad meal. I might as well just eat the rest of my, you know, bad meals. And that's exactly right. Like if you fall off for a little bit, you have a cheat meal, that's fine. Get back up tomorrow and let's get back on track again. It's not the end of the world. Yeah. The consistency over the long haul is going to be way more important than a couple bad meals or mishaps that you had. And so, you know,
do you have preferences on like if people should work out in the morning or night, or what does, if somebody's really trying to get into really good shape, like what should their minimum standard look like for a week for working out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you know, there's research about, you know, people working out in the morning in comparison to the evening, and there's research that supports both. You know, there's research that supports waking up in the morning. You're more energized, right? You haven't gone to work all day, and so you have more energy, and so you're going to get more out of your workout. Whereas there's studies that say if you work out in the evening, you know, like especially for males, you can have like higher testosterone levels in the evening when you work out. So therefore, you're going to get more out of your workout. So I don't really think there's any right or wrong answer to that. I think the main thing is making sure that you just get it in. Mm-hmm. And for me, like with my schedule, people ask me all the time, like, when do you work out? And it's like, I work out whenever I can find time, right? And it's I don't get to work out as long as I want to, nor do I get to lift the way I necessarily want to. But the most important thing is I still do it, and I get it in, and I make it a priority. As far as timing of the workout, there's no right or wrong. There's people that work out for 3 hours, and there's people that are in really good shape that go to the gym for 45 minutes and just hit it and get out, right? And so I think it all boils down to what your goal is. What's your goal and what are you trying to accomplish? What's your body composition goal? Are you trying to get stronger? And then developing that goal, that's going to dictate how you want your training regimen to be, because there's so many different factors that go into improvement in all kinds of areas.
I know for me, when I got a trainer and I started taking that serious, I was just learning so much. And again, some of these things that I thought I was doing well, I was not, right? Like I was working the exact same muscles for like years straight and neglecting a lot of other ones. It actually caused me a shoulder issue because my smaller muscles I wasn't working out, my big ones I was, and my shoulders kept popping out. So once I understood how to actually do this, it made a big difference for my overall health and fitness. So what are some of the reasons I think everybody, again, should, if they can, hire a trainer or whatever else? Or what are some of the main reasons you tell people they should come to you guys or should hire a trainer?
Yeah, one of our biggest things is obviously there's a certain way to train, and we believe in a certain way to train. Like I see you at Vasa sometimes, working out, and I go in and like I do my own thing, but as I look around the gym, I have two feelings. One, I'm glad that there's people here getting after it, right? I look and I see some guy that I'm like, good for him. Like he's really, but then I see him lifting and I'm like, man, he's going to hurt himself. And so we believe in a proper way of lifting, and that's doing things the right way. The second thing is obviously nutrition. The most important thing is the accountability. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. There's a statistic on gym memberships, and it was crazy when I read it, and I can't even remember the exact numbers, so don't quote me, but it was like over 80% of people that have a gym membership don't go to the gym more than one time a month. And so that shows you right there, like why come to us? Why pay this much when I can go pay $13 at Vasa? And the reason is it's accountability. Like you have skin in the game. Like you're paying to be here, and so you're going to show up. And then the consistency is going to be there. If you have $13 coming out of your bank account every month, you don't give two shits.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't even know that comes out of my account. And you're not accountable to anything. You're not accountable to yourself or others.
Yeah, I had a trainer one time, and I had to fire him because we had our set schedule, and I think I was working out in the mornings at the time, and it was pretty early. I think I was getting up and at the gym by 6:30 or 6 or whatever, and I slept in twice in a row, and he didn't like get mad at me. He didn't tell me like, dude, you're paying for this still. It was about $60 to $80 a session is what the math came out to. And he's like, okay, we'll just, and I said, dude, part of the whole reason I hired you is because I need you to be like, hey, jackass, no, you don't get to sleep in.
Right.
Like, get your butt down here. Let's go. And I told him, and I kind of gave him another chance, and he never held me that accountability because I know myself.
Right.
And I'm a pretty disciplined guy, but some mornings, man, you just don't want to get up.
Absolutely.
And so you need somebody that you know is going to be after you if you don't do it.
100%. And I think a good thing for a lot of people out there to know is too, like trainers hire trainers, right? And I think a lot of our customers and our clients don't realize that like we still have people holding us accountable. Like even though this is what I do and this is my profession, I still seek help. Like I still go and learn from other people, and I still have people that I work with that are holding me accountable. And that's the biggest takeaway is like, even it doesn't matter how in shape you are, it doesn't matter how advanced you are, you can always have somebody getting that much more out of you than you would if you were just on your own.
So when somebody comes and sees you, when do you consider it, or how do you know that it's been a success? Like somebody comes in, they've been working with you for a while, like, a random person listening to this again, I'm trying to speak to that audience because I think that's the majority of my listeners. How do you know when, we've been successful here? What's that look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. Are you talking about on a individual client basis?
Just some random 45-year-old guy comes in, starts working with you guys. When do you feel like, okay, this has been a success, and what does that look like in that scenario?
Yeah, there's so many ways that it can be successful, and it could go from a result that they got in the gym. Like I remember I had this one guy, he's over 300 pounds, and he couldn't do any pull-ups, right? And so we just started working, man, and I would just have him hang from the bar. Like just hang from the bar as long as you can. And when he did his first pull up, it was like it was Christmas morning, right? Like I did a pull up, and so that to me was a success. He was so excited that he did a pull up. There's success in there's a whole mental component to it as well. They like when a client comes to me and says, we just had a client recently that smokes 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And after 6 weeks of being in here with us, he came into me. He paid me up front for a whole year. And I never thought this guy would, be in here at all. Like, if you look at him, and we love him to death. But, he's a construction worker and comes in, pays me for a whole year up front. And he said, he's like, I just want you to know, I smoke 2 packs a day of cigarettes. And he's like, I've been smoking 1 cigarette a day. And that was after 6 weeks.
Wow.
So he went from literally 2 packs a day, just killing himself, to 1 cigarette a day. And to me, that's a success. And so, there's so many different ways that we measure success. But those are just examples of stuff that, that's a success to me. Even though he might not have a 6-pack, the fact that he doesn't smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day is awesome.
Yeah, and I think I asked that question because that's what I kind of wanted to hint at is success isn't necessarily you're now this like ripped 6% body fat person, right?
Yep.
Wherever you are, again, the challenge is to get better version of yourself.
Yep.
Well, then the last question is what difference do you see between those that succeed and those that don't? What are some of the what's the main thing that helps people to succeed with their health versus those that fall short?
Yeah, I think unrealistic expectations is the biggest thing. Like, people come in and they have this expectation of, like, I want to do this, but they don't understand how hard it is to get there. They look at somebody that's already in shape and think like, oh, I want to look like that, but they don't understand what it took for that person to get there. And so setting realistic expectations and small goals, and then just taking baby steps is the biggest thing. And when you can, like, for instance, like having my client do his first pull-up, that motivates him so much that, like, okay, I couldn't do a pull-up, now I can. Now I want to see if I can get 2. I want to see if I can get 3. Like, how far can I keep going?
Well, and I think that's one of the main reasons somebody needs to come in and, join a program like yours is because when you get into momentum, it starts to become fun. You're like, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I just actually, like, my face is a little thinner today, right?
Exactly.
Like, I can see my 4-pack, my 2-pack forming or whatever.
Right.
And you kind of start to get into momentum and it becomes fun. And all of a sudden you are able to put the donut back down, right? Because you're like, no, I'm building something here and I'm working towards something. So for me, I think that is one of the big things that momentum that you get by having the accountability with somebody else. Well, so if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they, New Year's starting out, they want to get trained, they want to kind of get a boost. How do they find you?
Yeah, so go to p1athlete.com. That's our website. Submit, you can make a submission through there. And it comes directly to our team, and we'll reach out to you and see what we can do to get you in here and help you out. So
awesome. Yeah. You guys are located right here in Lehigh.
Right here in Lehigh. Yep, right off of Temp Highway.
All right. Well, you guys heard it. So again, if you're trying to get into shape, I take it from me, like, for so many years, I tried to do it. I went to the gym every day from, like, literally my sophomore year of high school, and it's a miracle I didn't injure myself more than I did. But it wasn't until I hired a trainer that I actually learned what it looks like to be in shape and to get in shape. And so I'm, a firm believer in all of that. Especially, I wish when I was a kid, oh my gosh, parents, if your kids are slow, do them this favor. I got made fun of, and guess what? The worst part is I couldn't even track them down and beat them up if they were running away because I was too slow to catch them. So anyways, well, thank you, man. That was awesome. Man. Yeah. Look forward to seeing all the athletes that come through here and all the success you're having.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Thank
you.